Hello. So, my question is around intimacy and sex, and my partner keeps saying he wants more passion, and for me, I want more seduction, and finding it hard to meet both of those needs. I'm noticing that I'm feeling pressured to have turn on and arousal and passion when I need more buildup, and he's feeling maybe not desired because I don't have that spontaneous desire that just comes out and is more affectionate right off the bat. I'm noticing that sometimes when I try to go along, which I know is never the right thing to do, but I'm noticing that I'm going along with things so I don't hurt his feelings, then I shut down, and then he feels rejected by my shutdown. So I'm curious if you have recommendations for these two different styles of desire, and how we can bridge communication so that both of us can get our needs met. And yeah.
That was a really good question. I think that both of what you need can go together, and that you can do this together, maybe sequentially, to get to the place of passion for both of you. If he understands that your goal is to have a passionate, erotic relationship as he, and you just talk about having some steps that help you get there, that it doesn't just arrive. I don't know how long you two have been together, but the longer you're together, there's more to talk about getting to that place of equal passion. So I don't really see it as a terrible problem. I see it as an opportunity to say you both want the same thing, and to ask each other what they need, each of you needs, to get to the goal, passion.
Beautiful. Yeah, I also think this is a great question. I think you speak for an awful lot of women, and to indulge sort of generalities, stereotyping perhaps. I'm reminded of John Gray, who I disagree with enormously in a lot of ways, but he described sexually men as blowtorches and women as ovens. You have to preheat. Men are instant on. And of course, that's a gross generality, but I'm with you. The beauty in what I think you're saying is that you position yourself as being on the same side. Rather than accentuating the difference, I want passion instant on. Well, I need time to warm up. As Belinda says, we both want passion, and this is what we need in order to get it.
And sometimes couples then feel like what they do gets stale. So in this instance, I would say that each of you make a plan, and you go alternately, that whoever goes first around getting what they need in one context, in the second context, the other goes first.
I think that would be okay, except I'm listening to this person say she feels pressured by the guy, and that she gives in and loses passion herself that way. So I would be myself a little bit concerned about like a his and her night, because it already is a his night that she's giving into. And you're quite right. Giving in to somebody else and performing for them is the quickest way to lose your own passion. Mm-hmm. So it's important for both of you to understand that's not a good deal for either of you. I like the idea of each of them showing each other what they like.
Yes.
And the only sort of break on that I would like to add would be that it's provisional. It's not obligatory. Let me show you what I like. You can do as much or as little of it as you want to, but
right. You have to make it a choice in which someone could say yes or no, and then they have agency about themselves. It sounds like what happens for her is she loses agency when she agrees to do what he's wanting and he hasn't heard from her. And then she feels like she's just going on to get along.
Yeah, which is so true for so many women in heterosexual, heteronormative relationships. And then they lose their own sense of pleasure and eroticism. So stand up for what you want. And women need to be warmed up often, and men find that
annoying,
bewildering. It's so funny. Men are so prone to hurt feelings around sex. We think of women as being, but men are very sensitive. And if you look at them cross-eyed sexually, I feel rejected. I'd like guys to have a little better boundaries about this, not take it so personally.
Right. That if you're saying no for yourself, each of you, that the other hears it as a yes for self-care of the person who's saying no, and not as a rejection of the other. And that it becomes then a template around how they both can get what they want without it being blame, shame, judgment.
Yeah. No means I am taking care of the relationship. If I don't say no, if I say yes when I mean no, not only am I not taking care of me, but it does have effects on the relationship. I resent it, I withdraw, just as she was saying. So it's in his interest to hear the no and be generous about it. But what I counsel so many men to do is get interested in the warm-up. I mean, be good. If you want your partner to be passionate, then be a good lover. Learn what makes her, what turns her on.
Mm-hmm. And vice versa. Women want passion from their men. They feel like sometimes they're just there out of duty because the man doesn't seem like he's making love to her.
Yeah.
And so in my work, what I have couples do is they each own a week or 2 weeks in which they get to make the overture. They get to receive the yes or no, and they get to decide how they want to move forward. And if each partner knows that they're going to get a week, then they feel less likely to feel like they have to wait and they're not going to get what they need.
That's great. That's great. Give it a try. And for the men in particular who are listening, surrender to warm up. There's an old saying, again, these are all stereotypical things, but there's some truth. Men talk to women in order to get them into bed with them, and women go to bed with men in order to get them to talk to them. Women, by and large, want some sense of emotional, sensual connection before you move into the erotic. And men find that like wounding.
A waste of time.
Yeah.
Hi, Terry. My question is, what do you do if your loved one won't tell you what you did wrong? For instance, I do have a friend. She's not my spouse. She doesn't live with me, but we have a close relationship and we often talk. So we have things we like doing together. And I went out with her and we had a wonderful time. Everything was great. But at the end, she said she couldn't get into the subway, and I figured she would be a long time, and I went home without her. And I think she blamed me, but she wrote me and said, "Oh, well, my subway card was working, and I now know I can expect nothing from you." And that's it. So what I did I don't want anxious pursuit. So I said, I'm sorry. My legs were hurting and I was wrong and I should have phoned you on my cell phone, and I'll do that next time. But you probably can expect less from me as I age because I'm less physically mobile. But here's what you can expect. And I told her, a number of things. And then I just began treating her as usual, and she's not responding. But finally, after about a week, she started responding. And I think that's the best I can do. But I did send her a link to your lectures. What do you think?
This is a good friend. And are there different rules for good friends than there are for people who are a couple?
I don't think so. I think relational skills are relational skills, whether it's friends or kids or colleagues at work or your spouse. So I'm really happy that someone, called in and asked about a friendship. What do you think?
Oh, it was sad. I don't know if she was just wiping her eyes or if she had a tear.
I know.
Because she was so sad about this because she had really a nice connection with this woman. I think what she did was beautiful. I mean, she named that she saw she made a wrong decision and that it could be hurtful and that she's going to work on not doing that again, and really letting her know that if something's going on with her, she'll share that before making a decision.
I think she moved into repair nicely. She moved into the fix nicely. If I was there, behind the bushes counseling her, I would have maybe asked her to not do all of that in a text or an email, but rather asked to speak to the friend if she'd be willing. Maybe she wouldn't be willing, and so this is all she could do. And just say in a text, look, I'm really upset that you're so upset. I really care about you. Let's talk about this and set it to rights. And then when she did speak to her friend, before jumping into
To the fix.
this is what I did wrong, I apologize, and this is what I'm going to do from now on, she sort of had the whole conversation herself. I would pause and say, tell me what this meant to you, and tell me what this was like for you. And then perhaps ask the friend, what do you need right now in order to feel better?
That would be great. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
That the friend didn't really get to state how she made herself so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I mean, the friend might not have relational skills. So she might say it in a much more blaming way rather than taking it, this is what I did to myself when you did blah, blah, blah. I don't know if she would speak that way. It sounds like she most probably wouldn't.
It sounds like she did, and it sounds like she was pretty blaming.
Yeah.
I know not to ask you for it. It was pretty sort of retaliatory and huffy sounding. And then this person did a really good job of not getting huffy back. And it's what I call bypassing the bad delivery and trying to reach for what the person is trying to say, which is really a mature move on her part.
On the person who's speaking.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Instead of saying, well, she said, well, I'm sorry, I can see. So,
Though I think she did that. I think there was a premature piece to that repair. I think the friend needed to share more about the experience she just had gone through,
yeah,
and that it's something that she doesn't want to experience again.
yeah, I agree. She kind of bypassed that. And we're not there. We don't know. I mean, maybe the friend wouldn't enter into that conversation with her, and this is the best she could do. But it would be better to just ask the friend for a little
More
talk.
feedback.
Yeah, and engage in a conversation. But the
Of
moods,
caring, of showing that the person cared about her and wanted to hear from her, rather than the friend going on thinking she'll behave any way she wants to because I don't mean that much to her.
yes, an act of caring to be receptive and hear
Yes.
the person's experience.
I hope you remember to.
I knew you were going to say that. Good thought, Terry. Why don't you try it?
It's very hard to hear someone's disappointed in you or really angry with you because of behavior you chose truly hurt their heart.
Yeah, it's very hard, particularly if they express it in a blaming way, which is what most people do, unless they learn some of these skills. And it's still hard. Even if they do it clean as a whistle, it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's hard for people also to recognize that they can be as hurtful as other people. And so that the speaker to recognize that what she did was hurtful because she didn't communicate at the time why she was needing to do this.
Right.
And so then she could say, I'm so sorry about this. I didn't inform you in a full way about my decision.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It seems like the fly in the ointment here was this person's unilateral decision to take off. And, it just goes to show you in close relationships, unilateral decisions are a bad idea.
Really bad. And aging and physical discomfort as you get older enters more into your relationships and has to be understood as aging and not as selfishness.
That's a really good point. And it's kind of what we were saying earlier about the person saying no sexually. There's a difference between self-care and selfishness. There's a difference between self-care and rejecting or not caring about the other. But your ace in the hole in both of these situations is openness and negotiation. Tell them what's going on. Tell them what you would like to do and put it in the field between the two of you. Don't just behave unilaterally.
Yeah.
Good.
I agree.